NoDQ.com.
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 NoDQ.com. NoDQ.com.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ video here on NoDQ.com. Thank you guys for checking out the full-length video today. I appreciate the support from you guys watching the videos on NoDQ.com. The other way you can help support the website is to continue spreading the word about NoDQ video. Tell a friend to check out NoDQ.com and check out the videos. Feel free to leave your feedback in the discuss comments section at the bottom of the page. Any comments you have, any questions, I will try to respond to as many people as possible. Now with that being said, let's get right down to your questions. First one comes from Ash. Who do you see taking the Universal title from Brock Lesnar other than Roman Reigns? Strowman or even Samoa Joe? My guess is it's going to be Roman Reigns. That is what I would predict at this time. Now, if it was my decision, I would go with Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman is red hot as a heel right now. He has a lot of momentum. It's hard to say heel because he gets babyface reactions, but fans are taking Braun Strowman seriously as a monster. WWE, for all the mistakes they make, when it comes to Braun Strowman, they've been doing it right for the most part. There were a few issues that I had earlier this year, like Strowman backing away from The Undertaker. Quite frankly, I think Strowman should have beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, but it is what it is. WWE is pushing Roman Reigns, but with Strowman right now and his momentum, I would be totally fine with Strowman beating Brock Lesnar and Strowman getting taken to that next level by beating Brock Lesnar. The other guy I would like to see is Samoa Joe. If Brock Lesnar stayed champion for another year, I'd love to see Joe beat Lesnar at next year's WrestleMania and send Lesnar packing. So either Strowman or Joe would be great in my opinion, but realistically, if I had to put money down on it, I would say Roman Reigns beats Brock Lesnar for the Universal title. Will it happen at SummerSlam or will it happen at next year's WrestleMania? That remains to be seen, but I think it will be Reigns getting the win over Brock Lesnar for the Universal title sometime over the next year. This one comes from Samish. Hey Aaron, do you think Sami Zayn would ever be a world champion or will he be lost in the shuffle like many other talented wrestlers? I would be surprised if Sami Zayn ever becomes WWE champion. Now with that being said, I never expected El Generico, the guy in PWG, to even make it in WWE. The fact that he's done that is something that I think is really impressive and really goes to show that anything can happen in wrestling. You never know. A guy who might not be considered a Vince McMahon superstar could overcome the odds and become a major superstar. Anything's possible, but I think it will come down to timing and being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes no matter how talented you are, politics play a role, and just being in the right place also plays a role. And I think in Sami Zayn's case, he's going to need all of those different factors to work out in his favor if he's ever going to be the world champion. I do not see Vince looking at Sami Zayn and saying, hey, this guy's world championship material, let's make him champion and build the company around him. I don't feel Vince is ever going to look at Sami Zayn like that. So Zayn is going to need some help. Will he get that help? That remains to be seen. That's a big question mark, and nobody really knows. All right, this one comes from Beast Slayer, and I had to once again censor his username since he has the F word in it, and we all know how YouTube is these days. Do you think Titus O'Neil will be in trouble for breaking kayfabe by posting Reigns and Strowman pictures? I doubt it. I do not think WWE will punish Titus. I mean, let's face it, a lot of people go on social media and break character. It's very commonplace these days. Kayfabe is more or less dead. Now, with that being said, I still think guys in WWE should avoid breaking kayfabe as much as possible. Guys and gals, I think that everybody that works in WWE should be careful about what they post on social media, and I think there should be two types of social media profiles. One for the official account of the superstar, and those tweets I think should remain in character. If you want to have a separate account where you have your personal life and you talk about things that are not related to your character, then I think it's okay to go on social media and post pictures of your vacations. And certainly, I do not think that Strowman and Roman Reigns should have to be kept separate. If these guys want to hang out, then let them, you know, they're on their own time, they're getting some vacation time, the very little vacation time that they get, let them enjoy it, and let them do what they want to do, let them hang out with who they want to. But yeah, I think it's not that difficult. It's not really that hard to avoid posting certain things on social media and, you know, prevent kayfabe from being broken. You know, there's really no need to post a photo of Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman hanging out together. There's no need. There's no purpose in it. And yeah, fans can avoid social media if they want, but really, it's not necessary. You know, make some effort to keep the kayfabe going. You know, even though it's not really necessary, I still like when wrestlers try to keep their wrestling personas and their real lives as separate as possible and keep their private lives private as much as possible. This one comes from Ari. What gimmick was the worst or best? The 24/7 rule, championship scramble, or on a pole match? Thanks, an awesome show. If you're asking me to pick between these three, I would say the best is the 24/7 rule. I thought that was very unique with the hardcore title, and it made those matches entertaining to watch. Championship scramble, wasn't a huge fan of it, but it was at least something different. And the pole matches, those were really bad. But I'm going to say this. The worst gimmick match, in my opinion, is the scaffold match. I feel that those matches were very dangerous and unnecessary. I think that it put the performers at too much risk. You look back at that Starrcade match with Jim Cornette. Somebody could have gotten seriously hurt in one of those matches, and it's not worth it. You know, they're trying to make it a spectacle, but it's really dangerous. I would like a match that appears to be dangerous, but is not dangerous at all. But one of those matches, like the scaffold matches, any wrong bump could have resulted in a very serious injury to one of those performers, and I'm glad WWE doesn't do the scaffold matches. And it's something that only lasted for several years back in the 80s, and it was something that people stopped doing into the 90s, which I'm glad, because I think that those matches were just way too dangerous to the performers. This one comes from Smurtaza. After Shelton Benjamin said he is a free agent, when do you see Shelton Benjamin returning, and on which brand? I'm not sure what's going on with Shelton at this point. One would think that WWE would have brought him back by now if they were going to use him. The fact that he hasn't returned, and here's the thing about Shelton. Several months ago, he indicated he was going to come back, and then recently he said he never said that. I think that maybe WWE just decided that they're going with other people, and there are other people that are being used, and there's no spot for Shelton Benjamin right now. It comes down again to what I always talk about, timing. And I think when Shelton was originally going to come back, you know, that was right when the brand extension was starting, and WWE was looking to spice things up a little bit and bring back a few veterans. The timing was right then for Shelton to come back, but then he got hurt, unfortunately. That was bad for him, and now it looks like there's no role for him. I mean, I'm seeing people complain, and people are messaging me about how there are guys on SmackDown that right now are not getting TV time, and somebody even suggested maybe WWE makes SmackDown a 3-hour show. The fact that there are a lot of guys that are not getting TV time, people like Luke Harper, and you're going to bring back Shelton Benjamin, I mean, there's really no room for him right now. So it's looking like he's not going to be brought back for the time being. Will things change? You never know. There might be an open spot at some point, but it looks like right now they're not bringing him back. This one comes from Aaron Rift Rules, and this is on a similar topic to Shelton Benjamin. Hey Aaron, could you see AJ Styles winning the US title and feuding with Shelton Benjamin once he returns? Winning the US title, maybe. Going back to the previous question, I do not think we're going to see AJ Styles versus Shelton Benjamin. I'm not sure about the US title though. Kevin Owens just won it back, and my gut feeling is AJ's going to be back in the WWE title picture fairly soon. I would not be surprised to see AJ Styles versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam. I could see Orton beating Jinder Mahal at Backlash, and then Rusev has already been planted into the storyline for Money in the Bank. So you have Randy Orton versus Rusev, and then Orton's next opponent in time for SummerSlam is AJ Styles. I think that that's what WWE is waiting for SummerSlam so they can do Orton versus Styles. Styles is feuding for the US title right now, but if he wins it, then, you know, he stays in the US title program, and my feeling is AJ's going to end up going for the WWE title again fairly soon. This one comes from Larby. Was the intention for Chris Jericho to move on to SmackDown Live is because he doesn't have anyone to feud with anymore on Raw? I'm not sure why Chris Jericho went to SmackDown unless he's going to resume his feud with Kevin Owens after he returns. And I could see them doing another match or two. It's not like the feud has to be over. Kevin Owens did take him out, but Jericho could always come back and they could have some sort of big stipulation match to settle the feud once and for all. They could potentially drag out the feud until SummerSlam. You know, they just broke up in February. And then 2 months later in April, the feud's already over after they spent, what was it, 6, 7, 8 months building up the breakup, and then they broke up and then only feuded for 2 months. I could see the feud continuing, and that would make sense for Jericho to go to SmackDown so they could resume their feud when Jericho returns. Now, looking at potential opponents, you know, you already had Chris Jericho versus AJ Styles. You've already seen Chris Jericho versus Randy Orton many times. I mean, Jericho versus Balor, Jericho versus Rollins in a one-on-one feud. There are a lot of different possibilities on Raw for Jericho to have. But the fact that he's on SmackDown makes me think maybe the feud with Owens is not done yet. This one comes from Nick Easy. Would Enzo Amore be a good heel? I think so. I think looking at Enzo's character right now, some people already find him to be annoying, and I doubt he's trying to be annoying, although maybe WWE writers are trying to make him annoying, so people will not care about him. It's really weird how they book Enzo Amore, and I've been very vocal about it. I haven't been a fan of it. If he's being a babyface character, you know, he should be likable. But if he's going to be a heel, I could see him doing very well. I could see him annoying people with his promos and being like a Jimmy Hart type of manager. You know, the pipsqueak, the annoying little guy that runs his mouth and you want to see somebody knock his head off. I think he would work very well as a heel, and that might give him some longevity in WWE. The problem is Vince is not a big fan of having managers in this era. So would WWE really go all out with Enzo as a manager? I think if they did, I think he would be able to have some success as a manager. I could definitely see him doing well in that role. This one comes from Mike. Hi. Alexa Bliss's mic skills remind me a lot of a heel Trish Stratus on the mic. She's very witty. Would you agree? Yeah, I think Alexa is doing a great job with her promos. You know, on Raw this past week when she was up there on the pedestal, I thought that that was a very good segment. I think that she's coming off really well as a heel. She handles herself well, and, you know, she responded to the what chants appropriately. I think she's, in a way, surpassing Charlotte on the mic. You know, I think she's probably the best heel, and especially now that Charlotte's going babyface, I think Alexa definitely has to be the top heel performer, female performer in WWE, arguably one of the top performers, male or female, in WWE. I think she's doing an awesome job, and she definitely has the package. She has the looks, she has the skills in the ring, and she can talk. You know, she can do all three. She's got all three attributes, and that will definitely give her some longevity, and certainly a lot of people comparing her to a modern day Trish, and I could see her being that character in the long run. This one comes from Jason Bush. How would you feel about Dean Ambrose turning heel and feuding with Roman Reigns and having a storyline similar to John Cena and CM Punk in 2011? If it resulted in a huge spike in website traffic, I would be down for just about anything. But to be honest with you, I'm not really a fan of trying to recreate past storylines, and I'm tired of the John Cena versus the internet favorite storyline and replacing Cena with Reigns and Punk with Ambrose. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of that, unless of course it brings me the traffic. But I would say creatively, I'd like to see WWE try something different that we haven't seen before, like turning Reigns heel, which we know is not going to happen in almost all likelihood. Dean Ambrose, though, turning heel, I'm a fan of it. I've said it many times on video. I think Ambrose would be way better as a heel. I think that we would get to see the real lunatic instead of this watered-down comedy figure. And I'm not really a huge fan of the comedy segments from Ambrose for the most part. I think they're a miss more than they're a hit. And I think by turning him heel and giving him more of a serious attitude, I think that he would be able to take that lunatic character and go to really dark places with it. That's what I would like to see, at least. I would like to see the sick and twisted Dean Ambrose instead of this comedic so-called lunatic character that he's doing right now. This one comes from Hot Rod 276. Hey Aaron, in your opinion, which was the better triple threat match, WrestleMania 20 or Unbreakable 2005? Tough question. I think a lot of it just comes down to your own personal taste. I think both of them were outstanding, and obviously the Unbreakable match is one of the most famous matches in TNA history, arguably the most famous. Excellent match, almost flawless. WrestleMania, though, is WrestleMania. You know, that match was on the biggest stage, and, you know, it was a world title change, and obviously it's a remembered match, even though it involved you-know-who. So I would give the slight edge to the WrestleMania match because they're performing on that big stage. You have more pressure to deliver. I think you have to give the slight edge to the bigger staged match. But certainly the Unbreakable match, arguably the greatest match in TNA history. This one comes from Jonathan. How do you feel that NoDQ followers seem to have a bias for SmackDown even when Raw has a better show? I'm not sure it's a bias. I mean, there have been a few weeks where I thought Raw was a better show than SmackDown, and SmackDown still won the NoDQ poll by a big margin. I think that as long as SmackDown is 2 hours and Raw is 3, SmackDown's always going to have an advantage, and it's going to feel like a better show, even if it isn't always a better show. So I don't really think that it's a bias. I just think that it's the fact that SmackDown is a shorter show, and most of the time SmackDown is a better show. So it's not me having a bias or people having a bias. I think it's a fact. I think most of the time SmackDown is a better show. But again, I think a lot of it is due to it being a shorter show. You have less filler on SmackDown. The segments do not go longer than they need to be. This one comes from Deplorable Hamp. What did you think of the reboot in WCW with the New Blood and the Millionaires Club, and when did you lose interest? I thought it was interesting. I was definitely not bored with it. I think the problem is that WCW really needed to rebrand itself seriously, and I think it was flawed from the beginning because you had the young guys being the heels and the old guys being the baby faces, and in reality it should be the younger guys that the fans are rooting for, and the older guys should be the villains. I think they did that wrong, and there were a lot of things. You know, there were so many issues about WCW during that period. As far as when I lost interest in it, I mean, after a few weeks, it felt like it was going to go nowhere, and Russo and Bischoff really had no new tricks up their sleeves. There was really nothing new to offer to the table. And it quickly showed, and things just continued to fall apart in WCW. You know, they needed a total overhaul, a new brand, a new identity. They needed to rebuild and build new stars, and they were not able to do so. And just throwing Billy Kidman in there with Hulk Hogan wasn't going to make Billy Kidman a superstar. You know, it just wasn't going to happen. unless you had people that knew how to market Billy Kidman and make him larger than life and make him a true superstar. And the people in WCW were not able to do it. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ Video. Thanks again for watching. Spread the word, tell a friend about this video, and stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. I will see you guys next time.